Invermere. It's home to just under 3,400 people. That is until summer when the population balloons. Located on the shores of Lake Windermere, the area is a hit with beach-seeking summer tourists and those looking to escape the hustle and bustle of the city. In winter months, it's home to the White Way, which at more than 29 kilometres long, is recognised by Guinness World Records as the longest ice skating path in the world. Welcome to Where You Live from the Pine Logs Cultural Centre in Invermere. Our first guest today is reporter-editor from the Columbia Valley Pioneer, Steve Rubric. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, pleasure too.
Now, Steve, you're not born and raised here. Where did you come from and how did you end up in Invermere?
Originally grew up in Ontario, lived quite a while in Fernie. That's where I met my wife. She's a teacher, so we ended up spending a few years in China. We came back from China and a job at the newspaper in Invermere came up and we couldn't believe our luck to have left one part of the Kootenays and be able to move back to another.
I guess you couldn't really get much of a difference between China and Invermere. What was that transition like?
It was a dramatic difference. First of all, going from Fernie to Beijing, a small mountain town of 5,000 people, to a city of 15 million. It was quite a shock for us at first, but we adjusted and we enjoyed our time there, but really happy to be able to come back to the Kootenay.
And as mentioned, you're a reporter-editor for the Columbia Valley Pioneer. What has that job done for you in terms of getting to know the town and getting to know the ins and outs and the people around?
It's a really unique role. You really get insight into the community in a way that other jobs often don't allow. You feel that you get to know the community more intimately in ways both positive and sometimes negative. You see the warts and the smiles a little bit more intensely than most other people do.
Anything interesting that you've learned along the way?
No end of interest. It's a really dynamic town. I mean, there's for a town of just over 3,000, there's actually quite a lot going on in Invermere.
Now, if you could describe this town in one sentence, how would you do that?
One sentence.
Don't think about it too hard.
If you were to boil it down to one word, it would really be lifestyle. I mean, that's ultimately why most people are here, whether it's the lake or the mountains or the local art scene or just the more relaxed pace of life that we tend to have here. It's most people are here for the lifestyle. Most people stay here because of the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. And in a lot of small towns, you see a lot of community pride in the area. Do you see that here as well?
Well, absolutely. It's almost overwhelming sometimes. I mean, because of all the different lifestyle amenities, the beach, the lake, the mountains, and all the stuff that you can do here, you tend to attract people to the community that have a different mindset than people would in a big city. You get people that are interested in doing more than their life than just, the typical ABC lifestyle, have a career, house in the suburbs, kids, and finish. And that spirit or feeling really translates into an exceptionally strong volunteer community, for instance. And so you see things kind of like, like the art, like here we are in Pine Logs. It's one of, I think, 5 galleries that we have right in downtown. And they're not small galleries, they're big, and they get big artists that from all over the country that show in them, and that's not common for a town of 3,000 people. Or things like the White Way out on the lake outside, the very fact that we have the Guinness World Record longest ice skating trail on a lake right here in this town of 3,000 people is pretty phenomenal, and it came about because of a sustained and dedicated volunteer effort over a number of winters to get it established.
Mm-hmm. And I want to just go back to the beginning of what you talked about. You talked about the people and the reason that they move here, and that's part of the reason why there's such a strong community pride. Do you fit into that category, or was it merely just an opportunity, a job opportunity, or was the location part of the draw for you?
The location was definitely part of a draw. When we first came back from China, we were a few months in Ontario, where both my wife and I are originally from. And we were initially looking at work there just because the opportunities there are so much more numerous than they are, in small rural BC. But when we saw the job opportunity in Invermere, we said, wow, we'll apply to jobs in Ontario and Invermere. and that was the one that I got. So.
This was the number one on the priority list.
Yeah, just because it offers that extra, you can from my house, 5 minutes to the beach, 5 minutes to walk to the downtown, mountains all around, you know, all the fresh air you could want, the White Way, the wetlands, it's all right there.
And you have a couple of kids. What was the transition like for them coming from Beijing, and what's it like here to raise kids?
It's a great place to raise kids. Our kids are both born here in Invermere.
Okay.
So we didn't have them when we came from China. They're both born actually right in the Invermere Hospital. And but in general, the Invermere in the Columbia Valley is a fantastic place to have kids. You couldn't ask for a better place to raise them. I feel like you get all the benefits of a small town, of a rural area, in addition to most of the benefits you would get in a larger urban center. I myself grew up on a farm, pretty rural area, so I know all the benefits and I like them, but there's also limitations. So my wife grew up closer to Toronto, all the different opportunities you get as a kid there, like in terms of sports or extracurriculars or stuff that you're just exposed to. I kind of didn't have that growing up on a farm, but here it's our kids live in a small town. They know most of the people they meet on a regular basis. It's really fun and friendly that way. But if they want to get into gymnastics, there's a great gymnastics program. If they're artistically inclined, no problem. There's tons of stuff for them here. Music, sports, they can do all that here and still have the benefits of a small town. And that's pretty unique.
It's a very popular place, and it changes a lot. The dynamic of the town changes a lot between winter and summer, doesn't it? There's a lot more, like an influx of a lot more Albertans coming in summer. Yeah,
definitely the summer is our busiest season by far. Supposedly the population of the entire valley, all communities, is about 7,000 or 8,000, and that swells to almost 40,000 in peak weekends in the summer. So you notice that, and you do notice actually a bit of a swell in the Christmas through March break, kind of with the winter activities. So it is a drastic change.
Do you enjoy that transition, or is it a little bit? Do you enjoy the quieter times, or obviously the summer's a lovely time to be around here, but is the hectic pace a little bit too much?
Sometimes it seems. I mean, you get to the point where people actually complain about the traffic in Invermere, which is ridiculous. And what they're complaining about then is that they have to kind of go up on 10th to get around downtown. It takes an extra 2 minutes, maybe. Yeah. But when you're used to there is no traffic at all, and then all of a sudden there is a bit of a jam. It
has to be. I guess you have to put it in perspective a little bit, don't you?
Yeah, I mean it's nothing compared to Beijing or Calgary.
So what do you enjoy doing most in your spare time around here?
With kids, young kids, our oldest is 3, our youngest is 1, we do spend a lot of time not going too far from home these days. And thankfully, there's a lot really close to home. We spend a lot of time at the beach here. I mean, most Sundays this past winter, we spent just walking along the White Way. Our kids are too young to skate, but you just go out and you take a little picnic. The sun's shining. People are promenading on their skates. It's really nice.
And has the valley hooked you? Is this kind of where you want to settle now with your kids?
I would love to stay here full time. There is the flip side of that in a community like this, the jobs are limited, and I'd have a job in a newspaper. It's not the kind of job that you could maybe work your whole career and retire on. And my wife, she's a teacher, but she's year-to-year contract. So we would like the future to be here. We don't know for sure. I mean, and that's a challenge a lot of young families here have, and in their franker moments, that the politicians here will admit to that it is not an easy place to keep young families, because a lot of times the jobs just aren't here. But as much as we can, we want to stay here. I mean, we bought a house here, so we're as committed as we can possibly get.
Awesome. Right, Steve, well, thanks so much for joining us on Where You Live.
No worries.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Stick around, we've got more coming up after the break. Welcome back, and our next guest is Cathy Watt. She's a student from the local high school. Cathy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, you are born and raised in the Columbia Valley. What's it been like growing up as a kid here?
Really great. I'm actually really grateful to have grown up in the valley compared to living in the city or something like that. It's really slow paced, a lot of opportunities, and it's just, the sense of community is really good, and that's why I really genuinely enjoy living here, just because it's easy to meet people and everyone feels so connected.
Now, if you could describe this place in one sentence, how would you do that?
That's a good question. I would say a good sense of community. Yeah.
And that's something that you've obviously got heavily involved in, You're a Windermere Lake ambassador.
Yeah.
What exactly does that entail?
So I actually worked as a summer student for them in 2016 and 2017, and that involved just spreading water literacy and education about the lake that all of us really, really do depend on in the valley for economic and just actual health reasons too, and just making sure that the public is aware of the health of the lake. And then it also just involved smaller, more kind of simple outreach things, like just handing out pamphlets about invasive species or boater guides and maps and things like that.
So has that role given you more of an interest in the environment?
Yeah, it definitely has. Yeah.
And you're also a freelancer for the Columbia Valley Pioneer. What has that experience been like for you?
That actually just, I didn't plan for that to happen. It just kind of happened. I actually started when I was 15. There was a soccer tournament in town, and I got a lot of really good pictures, so I sent them in to the paper, and they said, yeah, we'd love to have you take more photos for us just as volunteer work. And it was funny because I'd only communicated with them through email, so when I said, oh, I can't do this job because I don't have a car, they were kind of disappointed because they thought I was in my 20s or something. But then, they found out I was 15. And then from there, it's just kind of grown to me getting paid and writing articles for them.
And you have lots of photos on display. You have a photographic website.
Yeah.
When did that become a passion for you, photography and art?
Art, I have always been doing that. My mom is an artist herself, so apparently when I was a kid, I would just draw for hours every day, which I don't know how true that is because I was a kid and I can't remember, but art has always been a big thing, and then it turned into photography probably when I was 12, and my best friend's mom is a professional photographer in the valley, Tracy Connery, and she kind of helped me a lot and taught me composition techniques and just editing techniques and things like that.
And your photos are fantastic, by the way. I just want to say that. Now you're in an area where it's sometimes hard to take a bad photo with all the scenery around you. Has that kind of been one of the things that has really maybe continued your development as a photographer, living in this area?
Sometimes I wish that we lived in a city just so I really like taking pictures of people. So I wish that we lived in a city just to be able to go up and ask people, oh, hey, can I take your photo? The valley, landscape-wise for photography, has definitely had an influence because in the summer we go hiking a lot, and that has definitely helped me develop my skills. So, yeah, for sure.
So you talked about being a Windermere Lake ambassador and all the things you do in the community. Why is it important to you? Because most kids your age are probably more worried about hanging out with their friends than doing a lot of the stuff that you're doing. Why is it so important to you to get involved in the community like that?
Because if you feel that something should happen, it's not enough just to feel it. I think you have to act on it. And I've always been really passionate about the environment and just having other people be passionate about art too. And just, you have to do it. You can't just think, oh, hey, I want others to enjoy that and then do nothing about it. It's the actual fact of getting the ball rolling and doing the action and seeing it happen that matters.
Now, you're at the end of your secondary schooling life.
Yeah.
What does the future hold for you? What are your plans?
I would really like to do something that involves science and climate change and hopefully tie art into that somehow. But honestly, I don't know, I found that just, like if I look back 4 years, I would not expect myself to be doing this today. So trying to look ahead 4 years, it's just, I can't really say where I'll be, but I hope it involves something in science.
Do you remember what it was that kind of set you on this path?
I don't know. My mom has always been really encouraging, but I don't know, it's always felt I've just always felt the need to get stuff done.
So does that, are you talking about maybe a potential future career in politics?
See, that's what my brother wants to do. And I have actually helped. My friend ran for, he was the local Green Party candidate, and I helped him a lot with his campaign. And I thought that was interesting. But honestly, politics, just listening to my brother talk about it, it's because we're really polar opposites on like the political spectrum. I'm a lot more green and he's very conservative. And just, I don't have the patience to handle it.
Perhaps more maybe activism as opposed
activism,
to...
I think, would be more reasonable, yeah.
And do you have a yearning to maybe go out and see the big wide world after high school's done?
Yeah. Hopefully I'm going to Iceland. I've always wanted to go there just to see the landscape. And
great place for photos, Iceland.
That's exactly why. And then, we have friends in France, so I might go give them a visit or something, and hopefully teach English somewhere. I'm thinking Spain. Yeah.
So you're going to university after school as well and spending some time, probably a significant amount of time away from here. Do you think you're going to miss it?
Well, right now I don't think I will, but from what I hear, like all the people that I've talked to that have graduated from here say that, they really miss the Valley. And I think I will, just because there's such a sense of connection. Like, when I walk down the street here, you always just smile and you wave at people. And if I walk into a cafe, it's like I know half the people there. But when I go to a city or something like that, it's definitely not going to be the same. So I know that I will miss it here, yeah.
Thank you so much for giving us your time today, Cathy.
Thank you.
And stick around, there's more coming up after the break. Welcome back, and joining us now is Cathy Sutherland, business owner here in Invermere. Cathy, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Now, you and your husband Dave are the owners of a successful food-based business, Dave's Hot Pepper Jelly, here in Invermere. What's the journey been like from starting that business up to where it is now in the context of doing it in a small town?
Well, it's one of those businesses where when you're doing food production, you start really small. You want to start out of your own kitchen, and then there's health requirements. You move to another kitchen, and there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears along the way, a lot of hard work. You get to the point where we are now, where we could move to a bigger city, to a bigger center, and increase our production faster and possibly be more successful. That we don't know for sure that could happen, but we choose to stay here. This is where we want to be.
What impact do you think the small town has had on the success of the business so far?
Well, because everybody in town knows each other, and everybody's so supportive of businesses in the area growing and being successful, because without businesses, you can't really sustain a community and you can't grow a community. So I think from a business perspective, there's a lot of support there, but also there's a lot of feel-good support by people that know us, that knew Dave for years before I even met Dave, and just basically want to see someone in their town do well, be successful.
So with that in mind, you talked about the opportunity to leave town and grow the business. You've chosen to start the business here. Are you planning on just sticking it out and staying here?
Oh, absolutely, we'll stay here. We will definitely 110% stay here. This is home. It will always be home.
Now, it's been home for your husband a lot longer than it's been home for you.
Yes.
Where did you come from, and what was the transition like moving to Invermere?
Well, I'm from Calgary, and my parents had a place in Radium when I was 9 years old, and we would come out here often, and I always felt like this was home. And for some reason, Invermere was drawing me more than Radium. I don't know why. I can't explain it. And I made a plan in my 20s, and I moved here. So I've been here for 13 years now, and the area I just always felt like I should be here. And I was right.
It is a much smaller town though. Did it take a bit of getting used to? You're being a city girl and all that?
You know what? So many people have asked me that, and honestly, it did not take getting used to. Yes, there were times maybe when I've wanted to run out and grab something at 8:30 at night from a hardware store, and lo and behold, small towns don't have stores open at 8:30 at night, especially on a weeknight. That maybe took a little bit of getting used to, but I never ever felt inconvenienced by it.
Now, if you could describe this town in one sentence, how would you do that?
Invermere is a beautiful, vibrant, peaceful community.
Perfect. Now, the town is unique in the sense that it's very much like a touristy town. You have a lot of people coming in and out throughout the year,
Yes.
and big differences between the town in the winter and the summer, isn't it? And how do you deal with that contrast, that transition, and is it something that you enjoy?
I love the transition. I love it when things wind down for the community, when things get slower after golf is over, before ski season starts up. There's a lull in the community and things are quiet. I enjoy that. But behind the scenes, that's when our business is really busy, is our fourth quarter with out of town business, right? So I do enjoy, though, the influx of tourists in the spring. It's an exciting time when, town starts getting really busy again. People are coming in. I think I have a little bit of a different opinion of it than maybe everyone else, because I started out as a tourist. So I kind of see both sides of, coming here and really appreciating the area, and then knowing that you get to wake up here every day.
And I guess also appreciating the fact that a lot of those people that are coming in are helping sustain businesses probably like yours in the summer. And
without a doubt. Without a doubt. We are definitely a community that relies on tourism, and that's a fact. And I don't mind that at all.
Do you think the town does a good job of welcoming those tourists in?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have an amazing Chamber of Commerce in place with the women that run that are just exceptional. And we just have a really vibrant community of a lot of small business owners, people that are probably happy because we live in the mountains. Of course you're happy when you live here. It's beautiful.
Now, outside of making the hot pepper jelly, what do you and your husband enjoy doing around this area?
Well, we work other jobs, so we're busy working a lot as well. Like a lot of people in this area have to have more than one job to sustain living here. We love golfing, kayaking, camping, fishing, skiing. Our son snowboards, hiking. I mean, there's endless things to do here.
And is that another part of the reason why you're 100% committed to staying here? You enjoy that lifestyle of being able to have that small town community and while running your business, but also have all of those things you just mentioned kind of at your fingertips?
Without a doubt, yes.
Well, Cathy, thanks so much for joining us on Where You Live.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thanks to our other guests, Steve Rubric and Katie Watt, and to the Pine Logs Cultural Centre for having us out. We'll see you next time on Where You Live.